Mare of Easttown, which wrapped up last night. Its 7 episode run. Kate Winslet on television, playing Mare Sheehan. Great last name. And yeah, this was the first time since Game of Thrones I can remember a show crashing the HBO app for an amount of time.
Yeah.
Last night,
First time in the HBO Max era.
crazy. Which who knew this show is that popular? I'd seen a lot of conversation from specific sources about it. People you kind of expect that we kind of consume the content, but people really are digging the show, man. And did you feel like it was justified?
Yeah, I was quite invested. I was very excited about the finale. I really enjoyed watching the show. I thought it was another great example of a week to week uh success story by HBO. It was great that the show was stretched out the way it was for 7 weeks. And I think it's quite satisfying. We had talked after seeing the first episode about potential reservations about whether the show would end up delivering because we could tell right off the jump, of course, ending with a dead girl in a stream. It's like, seems like we're not in the best part of town. And a lot of these characters seem to be not having the best of time at home. So, will this show be uh, fun to engage with, despite the darkness? And I think for the most part, it certainly was. And that's good. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. This was the first show in a while where I can remember wanting to watch week to week, not wanting to play catch up or being content with like doing like a 3 episode binge. Like I wanted to see what was going to happen. I wanted to see how the murder mystery was going to kind of take a twist. And I think if there's one critique I will have is that I definitely became, I think, a little bit more invested in the whodunit of it all rather than the investment in like the character growth, which this I think the story was trying to balance a bit, and I think did pretty well. Like you get some really satisfying emotional moments in the last couple of episodes, whether it's Mare and Siobhan kind of having their like mother daughter moment finally, Mare and her mom having their mother daughter moment,
Mhm.
Mare with forgetting the name, but the name of the mom whose daughter was
Yeah.
kidnapped and held
Lori,
hostage.
wasn't
Why
it?
can't I? No, Lori was the best friend whose son killed. Sorry, spoiler alerts. Son was
Yeah,
murderer.
I forget
But
some of the names, but
but yeah, you get some of those. You get kind of the growth of Mare. I guess even Mare with Guy Pierce. Like
mhm.
uh,
Richard.
which seemed like a really nice moment. So there is some I think like nice character storytelling, but I just became way more invested in like, all right, what actually happened here, and it was fun theorizing about it. And I think the fact that the show is able to kind of do both those things well, maybe one more better than the other, is really impressive. Um, what were like the moments from the season that stood out to you most?
That's a good one. Um, because yeah, it's a show that I think the reason it's so successful is because it feels so lived in as a place, Easttown as a place,
Yeah.
and it's a community that makes sense. And even though it's quite the rich cast of characters, I think it really all comes to a head in a really nice way. Um, but the appeal for I think a lot of people ultimately is that it's still a crime show, and you're
Mhm.
watching Mayor solve the case. And in general, I thought that was just really well done, especially once you get Evan Peters' character, detective,
Z-
was it Colin
Zabel.
Zabel, shows up. Evan Peters, always is a fan of Evan Peters, but he's quite tremendous in this role, I'd have to say. A nice foil of sorts for Mayor. And I think everything kind of leading up through his piece on the show obviously leads up to like the solving of one piece of the crime story, and then his death as a result. I think everything involving that was great. Like I love the moment when they're like trying to find the bullets and Mayor like finds them in the tree after hours and hours, right? Like the scene where he's
Mhm.
drunk in the bar. All the stuff between those two characters I thought really landed.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think Zabel and his death were like that. Was episode 5 was one of my favorites because not only do you finally get like him and Mare kind of coming to grips about how they're so different as detectives. Zabel is this person that supposedly solved this murder no one else could figure out, but it turns out he didn't actually figure it out. And
Mhm.
that's why he's able to not be as consumed as Mare is, where Mare just throws herself into these things because it's all she has at this point, and she it feels like this is the only thing that really gives her a sense of like satisfaction and fulfillment in her life, based post her the traumas her and her family have experienced. And I thought that was just a really wonderful moment. You get the obviously the kiss between them, which I wasn't really like invested in like a love story between them. I like that I could have done without that. But then you get them going and finding that guy who owned the bar, had the girls, and
Mm.
pretty quickly
Very
Zabel's
tense.
gone. And it's
Mhm.
just like that. Not only was that scene really well done and intense, but surprising, shocking to see Evan Peters kind of cut out that quickly, and uh, really leaves you kind of grappling with like the repercussions of Mare's the way she goes about this, and the wake of loss and trauma that's in her life. I really thought that that episode stood out to me as a great one. I think one of the other moments that I really liked, I think the whole like last three episodes are really well done. I thought they really landed this final episode really well. But even some of the stuff in terms of um, like the dad of Ben, Joe McMiniman or whatever his name was,
Mhm.
attacking Dylan, and then Dylan grappling with is DJ actually his son? His feelings around that I thought was really well done and memorable.
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of really tense moments that just stood out and
Yeah.
had you gripped.
Totally. It's also funny to think back now too. Is that the Richard character played by Guy Pearce is a real red herring if you that's where you were thinking. Otherwise, just kind of a piece of the puzzle for the community. From what I understand, Guy Pearce is not the original actor cast. So, but at the end of the day, you had someone pretty famous, probably the definitely this second or third most famous actor in the bunch after Kate and Evan Peters. So
Mhm.
you just keep thinking the other shoe is going to drop with Richard, and it never does. He's just exactly who he said he was, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's nice, I guess. Uh, you know,
Yeah, Sean Fancy had a great tweet about that. It was like Guy Pearce is just some like lovable, like I don't know, professor who came to town to like buy rolling rocks for everybody, and you monsters thought he was the killer the whole time. And yeah, it's funny that just in these shows how you start pointing fingers at everybody. Just another funny moment. When Lori has like the shouting match with Mare in the last episode, or like screams at her after her son gets taken away. Uh, to say that your son who just admitted to shooting and killing someone doesn't know how to hold a gun, just like a really strange claim to make.
mm,
I was a little taken
he
back
got
by it, but
over it in
obviously,
time.
yeah, obviously a mother,
Yeah,
real at
grieving.
that moment, so you can kind of look over it. But yeah, this was a success. Do you want to see season two?
I never want to see season two of miniseries. I
Naturally
obviously
not.
I'd watch it as soon as it aired, but I don't know if we need it.
Don't need it. Don't need it. Don't want to see it.
Then again, like Easttown clearly is a fucked up place. You could very easily just create a new crime story. I think a lot of like the human interest stuff with Mare in terms of her like her family and right, and like she goes up to the attic at the end, and like there's an arc completed for her mentally and in her heart. You'd have to
Hmm.
create new stuff around that,
Yep.
but I'm not. It's kind of like True Detective in a certain sense. Like the crime stuff, obviously, I'm sure you could write that. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't need it.
I don't want to see it, but if if Kate Winslet wants to come back and do more TV, who am I to tell her no?